Hello, welcome to this week's coffee chat. We promise not to be as crazy as last week, do we?
No, we don't.
No, we don't.
We've
had a staff meeting and we've been in a very silly mood already, so...
Oh, so it's a good start, to be honest. Simon, you have something to show us this morning.
Yes, well, I was a bit disconcerted after last week's coffee chat because I think we had some doubters around the fossil hunting.
Do you mean Mary Grinham?
Possibly Mary Grinham. Some doubters around the fossil hunting, so in the secret place of Recorder.
Imagine not trusting your words.
I know, so I brought along the fossil today, and admittedly...
And Keely said you can't see it.
Admittedly, it's
quite small.
very big.
They might not be able to see it from there.
Well, we'll put a photo later on.
Yeah.
So anyway, this is a fossilised sand tiger shark that's about 60 million years old.
It looks quite sharp.
It is quite sharp, isn't it? Quite pointy. Yeah. So Keely, who is a fossil hunter extraordinaire, found this, didn't you, Dolly?
I did. Can I just say, when you go to Reculver, it's a place where you can find shark's teeth, and so
Really? Real ones?
It's a shale beach, so there's stones everywhere. But honestly, you get a bit addicted. Well, I do. Well, we both do. We go down. We're just walking along the beach, but because we know, and because I have found that, and it's so honestly, this is really tiny. How I found that, I don't actually know, but it is real, and it was.
He came from a baby shark, didn't he?
Yeah, and then we were singing Baby Shark. We went a bit mad. But anytime we walk there, I just start getting a bit obsessive. It's a bit like when you're doing a jigsaw and you start off...
with a lot more pieces.
So me and Emma went to Reculver this weekend.
You don't know where to look.
Yeah. We've only told you one part of the secret walk.
Oh,
we're going to
there's so many parts.
We're going to release another part of the secret walk.
So I'm
say,
guessing this is down on the actual beach, not on the grass that me and Emma were.
But once we can take an hour just to walk back to where we parked, and then the first time we did it, you get so like you're looking at all the stones. We got back to our drive, and we've got a shale drive, haven't we? And I could see myself looking for sharks too.
Oh my life!
As I got obviously
because there's loads of sharks in.
It just made me think.
She's in recovery now. Recovery.
So we know that when we go there, we have to spend a considerable time. And I've now got this thing where we bought a coffee.
No, don't.
From Hats.
Some of this doesn't need to go public.
And we're walking along, and then I shouldn't really be bending a lot with my bad back, but when I do bend down, I then use because you don't want to use your hands and get dirty, I then use the bottom of the cup to start moving the stones. So by the time we finish, the whole bottom of the cup is
and people are looking at you like, what are these guys doing?
Well, I tend to distance myself. Walk about 30 paces ahead and just.
And
look.
I act like an addict, so I'm sorry, but I am going to find more.
Yeah, because this is a baby one, isn't it?
Yeah, we don't want to lose that.
No, I'll look after that. That's there you go.
Great!
But that's proper fossil, and I can't get my head around that it's obviously that old, and Simon's explained it, but it is amazing when you find it.
It used to be a warm inland sea.
How old do you think that is?
60 million years old.
Wow.
And if you're a young Earth creationist, I'm sorry, but this is about, about 60 million years old. And because shark replace their teeth very regularly, there's lots of shark teeth.
Explain why in that area it's a thing.
It used to be a warm inland sea, the ideal place for sand tiger sharks to hunt fish. This is a fish-eating shark, that's why it's a very pointy, spiky tooth.
It is amazing.
You're now watching the Discovery Channel, congratulations.
But what we want to find is a better one than that, where you can you've seen pictures, you can get proper
triangular
and roots.
And if you find them, then you'll show them on our coffee chat.
Yeah, we will.
Great. So other than looking for shark teeth, what have you guys been doing this weekend?
Enjoying the sunshine. It's been nice, hasn't it, down here?
We've been in the garden.
Been in the garden. We went for a nice walk, had some donuts and a coffee. I mean,
the sunset.
Do people really want to know this sort of stuff?
I don't know, to be honest. I think people are interested in your life.
I bet you all
how
life,
you're doing.
What have you been doing?
Talk about gardening, I watched Your Garden Made Perfect this weekend. Have you seen, I told you about Your Home Made Perfect before.
Yeah. Right.
Did you ever see that? You probably didn't. Don't listen to my recommendations, that's fine. So there's now Your Garden Made Perfect. Oh, have you? Yeah. Now there's Your Garden Made Perfect. So just a recap on these films.
So when it comes to your house, it's going to be absolutely amazing.
So what they do is Anyway, okay, I'll tell you about one of the stories. One of the stories is a new build with a really small garden. I mean, it's about the size of a parking space in our car park. And he had 1,500. It's not. That was an exaggeration.
That's quite small.
It was 10 meters.
What size car?
I think it was 7 meters by 2 meters. Okay.
And this shark still is 6 inches by. No, it's not.
So it wasn't a massive space to do stuff to, but they had £1,500 to a designer came in with £1,500. What can you make of this garden? And it was. Do you know, I was getting loads of ideas about...
do you want to explain why you're watching programmes like this, Jake?
Yeah, so we're moving house, hopefully, in 3 weeks' time. into Herne Bay, and we're moving into new build estate. So we're going to have quite a basic small garden, but we want to work out how to make it a social space. So somewhere that we can have barbecues and sit out. So we're watching these now, trying to get our ideas. We've basically planned the whole of the inside of the house, and we've got everything we need. So we don't want ideas on that, but we're now going.
It's
what are our ideas?
Room.
Well, and probably the most sociable.
Yeah.
I mean, in the summer, is the most sociable space, isn't it? I mean, it's a bit of a dream to be able to have people to come, especially during COVID. We hadn't had a garden to be able to.
We're looking forward to it.
Going to, so yeah, that'd be great. So we're thinking of ideas how to do that, and we're watching that program.
If people want to know,
it's on BBC iPlayer.
Okay.
It is very good. If you haven't watched Your Home Made Perfect, that's better. But it is, it's good. I talked a lot.
Is Charlie Dimmock on it?
I don't know people. Who's that?
Who's Charlie Dimmock?
Okay, she used to be around like 20, 30 years ago in garden programmes, gingery hair, but I saw a glimpse of something. The garden woman. But she's obviously much older now, and we were like, is that Charlie Dimmock? Because we did see a glimpse of a garden programme the other day, but
it's not like a gardening programme.
Oh.
It's more like how you can make that space the best it can be. It's like interior design, but exterior.
Yeah, but that's what. Yeah, there used to be garden makeover programs, that kind of thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Who knows? Well,
so as ever, we're just keeping tight to the brief here.
Yeah. So that's what I was watching. You should watch that.
It's been a good weekend, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's been nice to see the sun, and it's great that it's March.
I know, it is March.
It's actually
that is
March.
So good.
I know.
Last week we mentioned the fact that there was going to be, in the next couple of days, an announcement about how things are changing and everything. Yeah. Now this is the first time we're actually recording since a change. Do we have any plans for Easter or anything like that going forwards?
We do. We plan to be back in the building on Easter Sunday. We're going to do 2 services. So if you want to come along, you're very welcome to celebrate Easter with us on that day. Cafe opening is looking like May the 17th.
A bit later than we might have hoped.
A bit later. But it's not too far away, is it?
No.
It's not too far away.
No.
So,
well, now it's March.
Yeah.
So going forward from Easter...
Feels far away when it's February.
Yeah.
Going forward from Easter, we'll be starting to meet again in the building on Sunday morning.
And online.
As well as doing online content as well, as we sort of emerge back into reality.
That's exciting.
Reality. Normality. Both.
Oh, I don't even know whether to say normality or reality. It's really hard to actually find the language, isn't it?
I think we're going to have a new word probably.
It's not pivot. I didn't like pivots at all. Pivot didn't work for me.
Pivot?
Yeah.
Everyone was
pivoting.
I didn't know that.
And that just means to rotate on the spot, and for me that's not a very helpful thing.
Every church was pivoting.
Oh.
I mean,
but Simon never pivoted.
I think of those ballerinas on top of the old jewellery boxes. They used to pivot.
How did you have?
I used to collect them as a child.
I noticed myself in the talk yesterday saying, sorry, I moved on.
You had one of those.
Yeah.
I noticed myself from my talk yesterday saying when we get back to normality, and then I was like, but what is normality? Oh.
And I don't want everything from the old normal to come back.
No.
I do want a new normal. I think we've got to assess that as we go.
So we need to think of a new word for next week.
Yeah.
It isn't pivot.
Did you notice this week's Avengers link?
To be honest, I knew what it was and I still missed it. You managed to get it in so seamlessly, I was impressed.
And can I just take the credit for that?
Yeah, I really struggled this week. I'd written my sermon and I couldn't work out where to
fit the Hulk in.
Fit it in. Yeah, fit the Hulk in. And Keely gave me an idea. Why don't I use the Fantastic Four, that's what the link was this week, and get it into a sentence that doesn't talk about Fantastic Four, but in a different context. Yeah, those two words together. So I was talking about up, in, and out, 3 dimensions of Jesus' ministry, and how we can be better in all 3 dimensions. And I was talking about how comfortable Christians may struggle in the out, which isn't fantastic for those around them who may not know.
It was a thing of beauty.
So subtle.
A thing of beauty.
But brilliant, Jake.
It was subtle.
I would high five, but we're not allowed to touch.
I've got this week to finish off this series.
And
not a lot of wriggle room.
No, you don't.
And I gave my best to Jake, so I've got nothing left.
Yeah, I took
I may be dressing up this week.
Yeah.
I think you probably should do.
You're going to come in as Captain America.
Yeah.
Or the Hulk. What one would you suit more?
Good question. I don't know. We'll wait and see.
Anyway, you talked about radical discipleship.
Yeah,
Yeah.
10 and a half minutes in.
Okay, well, you've got 2 minutes to talk about sum up your talk and your.
So why are you so passionate about radical? Well, it was community, wasn't it? It was discipleship in the midst of a community.
Doing life with people.
Well, actually, one thing that I've actually found really interesting over the last few years when I've been looking more about church is how when we look at the Old Testament, a lot of talks of people's faith was talking about their families and talking about their communities, their cities, people around them, and faith was done in community, and actually salvation was even talked about within communities of believers. And then we get to the New Testament, and the early church came from basically friendships, communities. I mean, we were talking this Sunday about Paul, Aquila and Priscilla, who were tent makers. And the church in Corinth started from these tent makers getting together, living together, doing community together, and inviting people into their homes, doing community with them. And from there, the gospel was spreading. And I've always been really fascinated by some models of church that put community at the centre and say, do you know what, our Sunday gathering, that's important, but it's important to feed you and send you out to be a community, to be a missional community, and to be a discipling community. So I kind of wanted to look at that once I heard in the video about Paul, Aquila and Priscilla and was thinking about that. I was really wanting to get that community, missional sense of community and discipling sense of community across, of how that was such an effective form of doing Christianity in the early church, and it is around the world today.
I think going forward, community is going to be so important. I heard a phrase recently with all our online stuff that we're doing, all the digital stuff that's going on at the moment. It said, content without community creates consumers. I thought that was a really powerful phrase, because at the end of the day, if we just absorb content, will be digitally or anywhere really, or even in a room, and that doesn't get embedded into community and relationships and worked out, then we just become consumers. I think more than ever, as we go back into the new phase, and we want to maintain online presence and content creation, which has been so important. How do we make sure we create community? I thought it was a really good challenge, really.
And I do think this last year has given us a perfect circuit break in one sense, to not have Sundays as, not that I don't think we ever said it, but I think it can become
it's
the
easy,
highlight
isn't
of the
it?
week,
It's easy
the
for
thing
it
we
to...
will live for, the thing we get fed from, and that's not wrong, like you said, but hopefully this has reset our priorities, maybe, that we realise that we can do life. We have to do life without Sundays, the gathering, and yes, that will become crucial and important for us to fellowship together again and see our friends and worship together, and all of those are really important. But actually, community, I hope it swings so that the balance is more even, or even the other way, that community becomes the priority, and doing life with your friends and catching up with them and seeing how they really are, asking them the tough questions, is more important than just meeting together on a Sunday and ticking that box. So I think it's given us a good chance to reset and hopefully emerge in the new normal, which we haven't found a word for.
I mean, I said on Sunday about this, a 30-year-old study that found out basically that 75 to 90% of people would say the biggest factor in them becoming a Christian and going to church was having close friends and relatives that were already following Jesus. And that is big, but what I didn't mention is a church in Sheffield, actually, called St Thomas Crooks, that was the a few years ago, I'm not sure if they still are, but they were the fastest growing faith community in this country, and they've got a really interesting model of church. They say, your church, I want to happen, the main church happens in your oikos, the word that I was talking about, basically small group, really, but it's like this tight-knit community that does life together, and that's where I want your mission to be. And we'll meet once every other week, we'll meet together as one community, and we'll send you out to be your missional communities. And these missional communities grew at such a fast rate. I think it was, each community was growing like, I don't want to get the figure wrong, but it's something like 5 times over each year. And it's because these communities were so close knit, and they were praying for each individual's little missional
Yeah.
space that this place became such a effective church at reaching others in mission. And yeah, so I read a book about that church recently, and it's really made my hunger for community even bigger. And I think, like I said, we all have this hunger for community right now.
Yeah.
But I don't want to lose that hunger for community when we get back to having people around us.
Yeah. Good point.
Good point to end on, Jake.
Yeah. Well, there we go. Keely wants us to shut up.
Yeah.
So that's this week's coffee chat. We will see you next week for next week's coffee chat. But on Sunday, Simon's going to be finishing the Dangerous Faith series. So do join us on Sunday as Simon wraps up the series. Bye.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.